we are back for another great Tuesday evening. Thank you to everybody who's joining us. Tonight's show is a very special show for me. Yeah, I'm going to be talking to somebody I consider a really good friend, somebody I'm getting to know for the over the past 10 years, over 10 years now. I mean, I met this gentleman up at the Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan Paracon back in 2014 when I was up there in part of visiting their big event up there. He was a part of the group. But also, besides that, I mean, truly inspiring story, a really good guy. But before I bring this gentleman out, I just want to take a few minutes. And everybody, as you can see right now, down in my corner here, I got a QR code. It's for a GoFundMe page, and what I'm trying to do is just to bring a little bit of awareness to this gem of a little boy. His name is William. He is going. So I'm just gonna. So William is 17 months old. He is the son of Bill and Felicia Bowden, and he's also the 6-year-old brother of Brent. Just to give you a little bit of backstory about this little boy who is fighting the great battle, life has changed dramatically for this family since William's horrible uh, diagnosis at 9 months old with a tumor on his optic nerve, which is in both eyes, and he also had some tumors. I'm not going to try to pronounce them because I'm not medically qualified to do any of that. But they found some tumors. So right now, currently, William is doing chemo and will continue on doing chemo meds for the next 2 years of his life. So this family has been out on Facebook. I saw it through a mutual friend, Ashley. Uh, it's she is part of the family as well, and I saw this message, and they're once again try to do this without breaking down. It is truly sad and uh, heart heartwarming that this little boy at just 17 months old is fighting for his life, dealing with some cancer issues. So I'm going to leave this QR code up on the side of my screen throughout this show. I want William to know that me, my listeners, the TPV Nation, and everybody who follows me to pray for this little boy, give him some strength, show him he's got the courage to do this. He is such a beautiful little boy. And like I said, it breaks my heart that here we are and he's got to deal with this instead of worrying about playing around and hanging out with his friends. But you know what? There's no doubt in my mind, just like Shaylee, uh, he's gonna overcome this. He's gonna to be a happy, normal little boy. But for the next 2 years, he's got to go through some intense medication and chemotherapy, just to keep this thing from getting any worse. So please keep William and his family in your thoughts and in your prayers, and just know that everything you can do, if you can give to the GoFundMe Foundation, every dollar helps. It helps with the medical bills. Being over here in Canada, I know how expensive it can be, but on the American side, it can be that much more expensive. Talking to people I know that have gone through cancer treatments and stuff like that, and so we just want to bring a little bit of acknowledgement to William and to make sure that he gets our prayers because prayers go a long way. So, everybody, please pray for William, pray for the family, give this little boy some hope. And like I said, if you can, go to the GoFundMe page, give a little, $1, $2, whatever you can give. But if not, you know what? Share out the page on your social medias. That goes a long way as well because you might not be able to give, but just by sharing it, it'll come across somebody who's more likely able to just help out just a little bit. So please visit the GoFundMe page, do what you can do, spread the word, spread the prayer, spread the love, and bring this little boy a little bit of healing. So, with that, I want to say thank you for allowing me to take my platform and to bring acknowledgement to little William. And like I said, William, you got this, buddy. So now back on to more lighter notes. Right now, I want to introduce this gentleman. Like I said, I met him back in 2014 when I first took my very first trip up to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, to attend an event that was called the Michigan Paracon. It is one of the, it was where I met so many amazing and great people. And this gentleman is no different. So right now, I want to bring him out here. This is my good buddy, Jim
Hi, guys.
Struggle. I hope I said that right.
Sturgill. Yep.
Sturgill. Jim, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to join us here on the show. Jim, I follow Jim on all of his social medias because he is a Reiki healer. So he does these little TikTok videos where he just goes about, does his thing, and sends out the love and light out there. People who are stressing and doing their thing. We're going to talk about to Jim how he got into doing this, the Reiki healing part. But more importantly, Jim is one of those guys that puts his life on the line each and every day for us going out there. He is a first responder, an EMT to be more targeted down to his exact job of being a first responder. We're going to talk about the stresses of being a first responder, what these people go through, and why it can be a stressful job.
For sure.
But first, Jim, I can't. It's so weird to. It's not weird. But it's like, wow, we've known each other for 11 years now. It's like that's an amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
And watching everybody grow, watching you do your thing, watching you go through your struggles of. But you're also an amazing husband, and you're a great father, and that's a very important job too, as well as what you do for your community and the first responders and stuff like that. So let's talk a little bit about your journey. I know you've battled some alcoholism. You made a post about it the other day, and it was like, really, I'd never seen Jim drink in 10 years. But I mean, then again, we were only together for one weekend out of the year for the most part. I mean, you did used to travel around and show up at different events we were at, but so let's just dive into that area, because that is a good accomplishment for anybody who can overcome any type of addiction, no matter what it is, drugs, alcohol, gambling problems, whatever. It is a struggle, and it's not an easy feat to do. And and probably somebody that is in your line of work is, you have stressful days, so you just feel maybe alcohol take the chip off for a little while. So let's talk about a little bit how you got into the paranormal, and then let's talk about when did you first realize you had a problem when it comes to battling alcoholism?
Well, thanks for having me on, Dale. The paranormal has been something I've been interested in since I was a kid. I mean, I read ghost story books when I was younger, watched Unsolved Mysteries, a lot of the things that we were exposed to, back in the 80s. And with what I do today, I always wonder, what happens next? I obviously deal with people from birth to their death. So that's something that I think about quite a bit. And I'm coming up, this is my 20th year as a first responder. I'm a paramedic. So I've been doing that now. This will be year 17. I started out as an EMT prior to that. And we see a lot of things that when I started, we didn't talk about. And we have an expression that a lot of careers have, that we would eat our young. So if you had a bad call, if you tried to talk about it with somebody, they would kind of blow you off, just shrug it off. Man, this is the kind of thing we see all the time. And if you let that accumulate over a period of time, we all find different ways to cope. And I mean, I'd been to counseling a little bit, but especially after COVID hit. For me, I found that on my days off, it would be easy to bring home a 6-pack and finish half of it or the full 6 in a night. And that was my way of numbing the stress of what was going on at the time and the way that people were treating healthcare professionals. And so the most recent thing that kind of tipped me over the edge is that probably a little over a month ago now, I decided to just go on a binge and ended up getting so sick that I was vomiting blood, which was fantastic, let me tell you. And I decided after I went into the emergency department, got checked out, I said, I can't do this anymore. This is not healthy for me. I need to find a better coping mechanism. And I've been in counseling now this time around since the fall. And my counselor's been very supportive of trying to find better ways for me to work through my feelings. The call that precipitated my most recent counseling was a suicide that really just touched me off in a negative way, and kind of started dealing with those feelings. And then from there, we've just talked more about my energy healing journey and my ways that I can influence people, hopefully, to reach out for help when they need it. So,
Yeah, and for one, so glad that you are on the road to recovery, and know that this fight doesn't end. Um, it's always there. The temptation is always there. It's so easy,
mhm,
and anybody who's ever had any type of addiction knows how easy it is to just go backwards on a rough day.
sure.
So it's good that you're, and the stigma. Yes, you talked about the stigma of being able to talk about what it is that you go through in dealing with your line of work and being a first responder. And
Mhm,
more importantly, yeah, COVID was really hard on anybody in the medical field. Like, our hospitals were overwhelmed.
mhm,
Everybody who was attending homes for calls because elderly or anybody was so sick.
mhm,
What you guys were exposed to, and I was always reading messages from people who worked in hospitals on how they didn't even want to go home after
mhm,
their shifts after being
right,
exposed to COVID,
mhm,
because they didn't want to bring that to their families. So a lot of these people ended up in hotel rooms, sleeping in
mhm,
their cars,
mhm,
just to stay away from their family, and like how much stress that caused
mhm,
their families as well as them. And
right.
I think I know I heard the reports. I don't know how bad it was in the United States, but here in Canada, like how many nurses and doctors quit
Mhm,
after a year or two of this, and
mhm,
because the stress, they just couldn't do it anymore. And
right,
like I all hope those people were able to kind of get help after,
yeah,
and know how important their role was, even though they were probably being crapped on by people like, why can't we fix this? And but
right,
you guys were just doing the best you guys could to do with what was handed to you in a situation that, I'll tell you the truth, I never thought I would ever live to see a pandemic.
no,
And that's
absolutely,
not something we were prepared for. It hit us too
mhm,
quick, too fast.
for sure.
Uh, uh, so those kind of stresses. And so let's talk a little bit about, you know, what brought you to being a first responder? What was it that goes, this is what I want to dedicate my life and my career to?
Well, that's an excellent question. When I first discovered my interest in first response, I was actually a museum administrator. I went to graduate school to run a museum and I was working for a museum at the time. And we happened to rent a house right next to the local fire department. And about 6 months into our time at the house, I happened to see an architect I knew walking around with another guy, and I went over and introduced myself and found out it was the fire chief. And he kind of got chatting me up a little bit. Like, found out that I was a historian, which he loved that because he was a reenactor, and invited me to come over for one of their meeting nights. So I came over and I kind of meshed really well with the crew and started going on calls. And as part of being a firefighter there, you also had to be an EMT. So they enrolled me on an EMT course. So I would work during the day, take EMT courses at night. And the amount of satisfaction I had from helping people was significant. So I decided at one point that the museum field just wasn't my thing. I like history, but I don't like administration. So I was able to take the chance to go full time into EMS in December of 2006. And with a few breaks here and there, I've pretty much been consistently with it ever since. And the rewards continue to be that I'm helping my community. I get to be with people in what can be their worst day and bring a little bit of comfort and professionalism to the experience that they're having. So,
Yeah, I mean, I know there are all types of shows out there that show day in a life of what you guys do.
mhm,
And I mean, that's probably, and a lot of that is edited for TV. So they actually probably don't get to see the worst of the worst.
mhm,
And, so many of our first line responders, and we see this in the media all the time, and there's fights for it, for the government to step up and be able to do more for
mhm,
the people who are putting their lives on the line for us each and
right,
every day by answering calls, and sometimes very dangerous calls on
mhm,
top of that.
for sure.
Like you guys, you guys are there to help somebody out who's been injured or whatnot. But like you were saying backstage, and I never even really thought about this, but being in the wrong place at the wrong time when
Mhm.
something is happening is is quite. So let's dive leave a little bit down uh, those that little hole of saying why are people that are first responders, why are they, the stigma is not to talk about what they are going through because they have to be strong for everybody else.
Well, the caregivers are the last ones to care for themselves. And like I said, when I got in the career, you knew that you were going to see things. And that was actually kind of how we weeded people out in the beginning as you went through your EMT class. And as you did your ride time, if you saw a pretty heinous call, that would kind of tell whether you were going to be able to handle it or not. And that was pretty much it. Now, you would get the lip service of, we have a counselor available if you want to talk to somebody, but you would see your coworkers not taking advantage of that opportunity, so you wouldn't either. And it's really just taken, I would say, arguably the last 10 years for more of us to be willing to say, we can't do this anymore. And we need to find a healthier outlet, whether it be counseling or exercise or yoga, or in my case, in addition to my counseling, I'm a Reiki healer. And it's becoming a lot more embraced, even at the initial education level. I start day one of a class that I would teach, for example, EMT or paramedic, and I say, you need to understand that this is going to be a difficult job and you're going to be exposed to things that most other people wouldn't be able to comprehend. And there's going to be a time where you're going to need help. You're going to need to talk to somebody. And I would recommend starting with a mentor if you can find somebody in the field that you can connect with that's willing to talk to you about the things they've been through. And even when you're having a good mental health time, it's still nice to have that opportunity to talk to somebody. So letting people know that here I am, 20 years in the field, I'm not afraid to say I'm struggling and I need help. And so setting an example myself is one of the best ways that I feel like I can help others, is to say, I'm doing it and I feel a lot better because of it.
Yeah, and I mean that's the leadership role that I think a lot of the senior people, like old school wise, a lot of people are like, we're supposed to be tough. We're not supposed to talk about what we're dealing with today.
Yeah.
Uh, but we need to also change this because the new people that are coming in, and
Hmm.
if you kind of more or less nip it in the butt in the beginning, then it's something that they become accustomed to and open to talking about, instead of the old school mentality of you just go out there, you do your job, you go home, you forget about it. But it's hard to forget about something you've seen.
You don't forget, Dale. I can think of calls I've run, I mean, a lot of times the ones that I think of the most are the suicides, and walking into the patient's house and seeing their kids' toys on the, typical kids clutter. And you're thinking that child no longer has their father on this planet.
Right.
And I'm a dad. And so automatically I go to, what if something happened and my son didn't have me around anymore?
Right.
And you put enough of those together. And when I went on this one that I said precipitated my counseling session, it was another circumstance where a man had threatened to self-harm and told his wife that he'd been thinking about doing it while she was standing there in the living room with their son sleeping upstairs, and he did it while she's there watching him. And I don't know if it was just, I've talked with my counselor about it, so I think I've kind of processed what it was. But at the time, between here he is laying on the floor, his wife's in the other room, obviously upset, talking to law enforcement. The kid's upstairs, doesn't know what's going on. I just mentally shut down. I went ahead and did what I needed to do for the sake of my profession, and did all the appropriate things, made sure we got him to the morgue, and then I had to leave the shift. I very rarely in my career have not finished an entire shift, and I had to go. Unfortunately, my coworkers here have been great about, okay, we'll cover it, get on your way, and here's the number for the counselor that we use. So in this case, I had a good support within my company to say, we recognize that you're struggling, and here's what we can do to help you. But it isn't always that way. The things that you think about, a lot of us see big communities with mass casualties, and those get a lot of the press. Those are the ones that we do what we call a critical incident stress debriefing. But these smaller everyday incidents, they just stack up after a while. If you don't find a healthy outlet, you're going to find an unhealthy one. So to kind of circle back to what I was doing, I know that there's a family history of alcoholism. I was never really a true alcoholic per se. I could function without it, but I would take every opportunity when I had a day off to binge drink. So knowing that that's not the way to go, and that it's not healthy for me, it's going to accelerate my injuries and illnesses as I age, I said, I just can't do it anymore. And I even told my wife today, I said, I don't miss it. I mean, like I said, it's only been 4 weeks, but I haven't had any inkling of a desire to pick up a bottle or crack open a beer. So,
Right. And that's amazing. So we're going to touch in like, okay, so you're going through all this and now you're a Reiki healer.
mhm.
Is the stresses of your line of work something that brought you to thinking about Reiki? Because we know the benefits of Reiki is so tremendous in so many
Mhm.
ways. Uh, Talk about like how you even thought about getting into Reiki.
Mhm.
Talk about your TikTok videos,
Mhm.
like how you came
Sure.
about going. I need to spread a little bit of positive energy into this world. So
Absolutely.
let's talk about this journey.
Well, I'll tell you, before we started, I activated my energy flow so that as we are in this session today, I'm actually channeling Reiki for all your viewers. So everybody that's watching today is getting a Reiki session for me. And
That's
for
where
me,
those vibes are coming from.
yeah, I got it, man. Like I said, I started it up before we got on live. So, but I had a few Reiki sessions, probably like starting around 2010. There were a few Reiki healers up this way that I had gone to, and then people that came to the Paracon that were Reiki healers that I would take sessions from them. But for me, what really tipped it is there was so much negativity during the start of the pandemic that I was very much burned out by a lot of social media. And I turned to, of all places, TikTok, and started watching. For those who don't know how TikTok works, is when you come in, they ask you for some of your interests, and then they start sending you videos. And as you click that you like them or interact with them, you start to see more of those. And I would start to see more energy healer videos. And there was a Reiki master who lives in South Carolina that I just kept going back to. Like I watched one of her lives, and I just felt the energy was palpable. And so I would try to watch all of her lives that I could, watch her videos, and then she made me one of her moderators so that now when I'm on, I can help keep the conversation positive. And if people are being disrespectful, we can kick them out. And we've built kind of a little family of all her different moderators. And her name is Nicole Gargiulo. She goes by Kind Mind Healing on TikTok. And Nicole offers Reiki training through her website. So she has a self-paced course for the 3 different levels of Reiki. And you take the course, you purchase the course from her. She sends you the materials. You go through the manual, and then she does an attunement with you through Zoom. And so she attuned me to level 1, which is the initial for in-person healing. So I'm able to do a session for somebody that's in the same room as me. And a lot of people that do level 1 do it for themselves. And I found a lot more peace with it. I found that people responded well to when I would give them a session. So I decided to go ahead and get level 2. And level 2 allows me to be a distance healer. So now, like I'm doing today, I can attune anybody anywhere in the world. And I can set the intention that I don't have to be on screen with them either. So if you wanted a session from me, Dale, I could say, hey, I'll channel for you at 4:00 on Saturday. You can try to set the intention to be available at that time, maybe relaxing, laying on the couch or whatever, but you don't have to be. And as the Western science starts to spend more time studying the quantum realm and the way that particles interact with each other, they're starting to realize that a lot of energy healing fits perfectly with the Western science. The energy knows no space and no time. So for me to say that I'm channeling energy, it's not my energy. I am just a vessel to channel the energy for the universe, and I'm giving it to these people just as a benefit because I do want to spread love and light, like you said. I want to be that positive influence for people. Now I'm in finishing up the coursework for level 2, and then my next step would be to become a master. And when I'm a master, now I can attune others to be Reiki healers. And so for me, it's just been an issue of I'm a huge procrastinator, so I haven't finished the coursework yet. I recently was diagnosed with adult ADHD, and the medication is helping me to focus enough that I'm getting my coursework done so that I can finish, get the master going, and then go from there. So, but there's a really positive Reiki community on TikTok, and I won't. It sounds cliche, but we are like a family, which has been amazing. So,
Yeah, and I love people that can do this kind of stuff, and I mean, it is just another level of being able for you once again, not only being a first responder, but being a Reiki healer to be able to help people. You know, like you said, they
mhm,
don't have to be in the same room as you. You can be halfway across the world,
right.
and this is happening. Uh,
Mhm,
for I know there is different types of Reiki
mhm,
people who practice it.
mhm.
What is it that you do as a healer different than somebody who does, say, like a Reiki massage or energy cleansing and stuff like that? I know, like I said, I know
Mhm,
there's so many different
mhm.
avenues within this one thing. It's like the paranormal, right? It's
Right.
under an umbrella.
Right.
There's a title that we all can understand,
Mhm.
but then there's like different areas of this that people can do. So
Right.
if you could kind of just
Yeah.
help us understand, because maybe some people don't know enough about it to say, okay, what makes him different than everybody else that studies
Right.
Reiki.
Well,
So
I'm attuned to Asui Reiki, which is the original that was I want to say rediscovered by a Japanese master, a master of Sui in the late 19th century. And all of us that are Asui Reiki healers trace our lineage back to a set number. I think it was about 3 or 4 students that he taught. So we can actually go through our master back all the way to one of these 4 people. And a lot of it was brought to the West, the United States, Europe, like the early part of the 20th century. Reiki massage, just to kind of parallel that, is a masseuse who also does Reiki. So you can do both. But if you're a massage therapist or a masseuse who's also an energy healer, you're not just working with the muscles, but you're also working with the energy. Um, there are other forms of Reiki that kind of branched off: Holy Fire, Galactic. I'm only giving you a couple of the names, but I've also been attuned to star and earth healing and angelic healing. And with each of those, it's really where you're calling on the energy from that differentiates you. So when I do the Asui, I activate these symbols, and these symbols allow me to be the channel. When I do angelic, I actually call on the archangels, and I do the sign of the cross as part of my healing. With Star and Earth, I connect myself through the higher planes and then down through my feet, and I channel the energy that way. So each of them is still channeling universal energy. It's just how we access it, I'd say, would be the difference.
And I mean that's something that's always interests me. I've always said that, one of these days I would really like to start taking the courses
Mhm.
and discovering that side, because it has been so fascinating, and just reading, like I said, the benefits of all types of Reiki
Mhm.
has so many personal, mental, and
Mhm.
benefits to it.
Yes.
I mean, it's been known to heal the body, and I mean, this is what I find about it, and reading more about it, is just how powerful our bodies really are,
Mhm.
and how, yeah, okay, it's not to displace a broken hip; it'll never fix a broken
Right.
hip. But there's other elements of our bodies, like just other ways we can heal ourselves within
Mhm. Mhm.
to help the body to heal itself.
Right.
Like take for instance, like a broken rib. There's no surgery for that, but your body can heal itself, and through
Mhm.
these forms, it will
Mhm.
kind of help you focus in
Right.
on what it is that you're healing in your mind. I mean, how many people have helped themselves, and you hear people have even using it to help
Mhm.
fight their cancer battles.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
like I said,
my
it is.
Nicole, she started as a level one back in the early 2000s, and her dad gained 17 years on a cancer diagnosis with using Reiki in addition to his cancer treatments.
Wow, that
So,
is. And and it's peaceful, and it's,
mhm.
like I said, s- so you're out on TikTok, you're throwing yourself out there. You've got a good amount of people who follow you, and I mean that's probably helps out, because of people who put that in their algorithm. This is what I
Mhm.
want to watch.
Mhm.
This is what I want. It, like you said, it's like you click on one video, then you wake up the next day, and all of a sudden there's all these other people. It's like, well,
Right.
I don't want to watch them. I only want to watch this person.
Right.
But
Right.
it's such a, and I'm so glad it's becoming a mainstream thing that people can really. Uh, and I always seem that it shows up in my life when I'm struggling the most.
Mhm.
And like your TikTok videos, I'll be sometimes I'll just scroll through, and it's on auto scroll, and
Mhm.
I'll be trying to meditate, and all of a sudden I just hear your voice, and it's just like, oh, there's Jim. I'm like, this is going to be a good few minutes here, folks.
Cool.
Let's go. Um, so what does your kids think about what it is that you do, as far as like being a first responder and doing all these Reiki stuff?
Mhm.
Like, do they understand what Dad does? Are they proud of what Dad does?
Well, the I have one son, and the EMS side, he appreciates what I do, but it's something that he has such a big heart that he doesn't like to hear about some of the things that I go through. So he understands intellectually that I'm a medical provider and that I help people, but I don't really get a chance to tell any stories with him. But
Right.
funnily enough, he is one of the first ones that allowed me to channel Reiki for him. So if he's having a rough night where he can't go to sleep, I'll go into his room and channel for a few minutes and just try to help bring him some calm. But it can be difficult at times in my circumstance because I have a very skeptical spouse who thinks that when I use the term Reiki, that I'm talking about leaves, like raking.
Yeah.
It's said a little tongue in cheek, but at the same time, it's like, there's a reason why I'm here in the basement when I'm channeling, because it's like I don't have to hear the ridicule when I'm doing it. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, it's amazing, and I hope that one day your son kind of follows in your footsteps. Would you want your son to do what you're doing, like as far as becoming an EMT?
I know there's benefit to it, but knowing his personality, I think he would really have a hard time because he would just take on so much of the sadness and the pain that people have that it might be a little bit difficult for him. But what's kind of funny is that he's talked about, he likes to organize, so he would actually be really good in a behind the scenes support role. Like if he was doing inventory and supplies for us, that would be a great benefit for him to be able to do something like that. So I could see him as an ancillary position, but not directly as an EMT. No.
Excuse me, my sinus has decided to go nuts on me right now.
That happens sometimes when you have energy channel too. You make sure you hydrate after we're done if you are an
Oh,
RN. So.
I always got a bottle of water with me.
Good.
That's one thing I have learned about podcasting. Talking so much dries you out.
I
But
don't mind,
also
but I knew I was
keeping
going to do
your
one too.
keep your throat very moist at all
Mhm.
times. Protect
Mhm.
your voice. Um,
Absolutely.
So the journeys and everything that you've been doing, everything that's going on in the world right now. I mean, you must be getting like daily requests for Reiki and stuff like that to help people that are struggling right now.
Well, I do try to do blanket healings, like if I sense that something's going on, but I haven't really promoted the one-on-one aspect because one thing about Reiki is that it is intended to be an exchange. So if I'm going to channel energy for you, there should be some exchange back. So which typically nowadays is a compensation of some kind. And I don't always charge people, but it is something that I'm working on doing a little bit more. So I haven't set up the calendar for it yet, but at this point, if people want to reach out to me through Facebook or through TikTok, they can arrange a session. I have a pretty flexible schedule right now with work. So I work 324s a week. So the other 4 days of the week, typically I have available for Reiki sessions. And I break them into 15-minute blocks. So if somebody wants a 15-minute session, they can do that, or I can do a full half hour. And because it's distance healing, I can do Zoom or I can just schedule it so that I'll do it while they're going about their day. And because the energy, again, knows no time and space, I could even potentially, let's say, you caught one of my videos and you're feeling something now, but I recorded it a week ago. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get the benefit from it. So it's the same thing with the distance healing. I could, let's say you're going to go into an interview, I can set up to do the healing today, but I'm intending the energy to be when you're going to be nervous during your interview. I have a friend that I did a session for. She was going through dental surgery. And when you do distance healing, you have to use what's called a proxy because obviously the person's not in the room with you. And at that time, I was using myself as the proxy. They teach you can use your legs as a proxy. And I literally felt the warmth and the sensation in the parts of the body that matched up with where she was having surgery. And she said that was the first time that she didn't have anxiety during a dental procedure.
Wow.
So it was really cool to have that feedback from her. I was really, really blessed, you know.
Well, I know who I'm calling upon when I have to go for my dental surgery.
I got you, man. I'll take care of you.
I mean, I any type of surgery because as a lot of people do know that I did die during a procedure back in 2006. And now the thought, even when my doctor says, well, maybe we should do surgery, I just like my anxiety goes through the roof. I
Oh,
start
I'm
in
sure.
panic mode. I'll even start sweating, even thinking about surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And because of what I went through, and a lot of people are like, well, yeah, but you made it, you should be grateful. Yeah, but it's like somebody who's been in a car accident. Are they eager to get back behind the wheel of a
Right.
car right away?
Right.
Yeah, they made it out, they're fine, everything is good, but yeah, it was probably one of those, a very small, once in a lifetime, the chances of it happening again would be slim to none, kind of
Right.
say. But that always plays in the back of your head. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
the people in my life are like, well, why are you so scared? And when you explain it to them, but they still don't understand, it's just like one of those, you kind of have to go through it to understand. But I
Mm-hmm.
do not wish anybody to diabetically to be brought back to life so
Right.
that you can say that you've experienced this, because it was an experience, and a near death
Mm-hmm.
experience is life changing. And
Yes.
I've and I've talked about this, and it's going to be in my book, and just how life changing that really is.
Hmm.
So I appreciate, and it's good to know like you are able to do this, and
Hmm.
it actually, like you said, your friend confirmed it. Like this is the first time she has not had anxiety while going
Hmm.
through this type of procedure, and it's good that it helped her at that time.
Well, you can
Uh,
actually, just real quick interjection there, Dale. There is a certified medical Reiki practitioner certification that I've started to just look into, but I haven't gotten too far into yet. But there are some hospitals that are starting to actually let Reiki healers into the surgery suite to channel while a person is undergoing surgery.
wow, that
Hmm.
would be amazing.
Hmm.
It's kind of like that little security blanket. If this is something you need, I often say that, it's, when you're nervous, you need that little security blanket for somebody. That could be like knowing somebody's there
Absolutely.
not only watch over them, but to send this energy out to know that they're going to be
Hmm.
protected and stuff.
And it's
So,
documented that the recovery times are less, and the coming out of the anesthetic, the whole thing is just, there's enough studies on it now, and it was kind of neat. The book that I have, the doctor that allowed this procedure with this Reiki healer was actually Dr. Oz, the Dr. Oz.
oh wow,
So
everybody loves Dr. Oz. He's been around a long time and
yeah.
done some, but it's got to start somewhere, and I'm glad
Hmm.
there's somebody who's willing to give it a chance.
Right. Right.
And just try to break barriers, try to
Hmm.
do different things, and I
For
think
sure.
this is how we progress as people
Yeah.
in life, is just say, you know what, we need to level up. This is society is looking for stuff like this. People
Yeah.
who are very metaphysical type people who really, believe in the power of the universe and prayer and energy.
Hmm.
They kind of, if this is a kind of a service that's being offered, then why not, right?
Right. Absolutely.
It's no different than if you ask a priest to come in and pray over you before you
Hmm.
go into having any type of surgery done.
Right.
It's the same thing, but
Right.
like I said, it is such an amazing field that you work in, and how the two worlds, kind of work with each other, and how you're
Absolutely.
bringing these two worlds
Very much so.
together. Being a first responder and being a Reiki healer, like you're, I mean, it's not something that you turn off.
Correct.
Like you cannot just turn off being who you are. And I'm sure, like, you being in a very stressful situation, I can just picture you just calling upon your Reiki energy and just going, just help me through this. Just,
Right.
you
Hmm.
know, and through that will then relay into your patient that you're trying to take care of, because they can feel your energy shifting,
Hmm.
which, anybody who does this, if they even touch your shoulder, you can feel their energy instantly,
Hmm.
and how it transfers the body. And it really is like, wow, it is a true miracle and a true blessing.
Yes.
um
I'm very grateful.
So let's just dive down a little bit. What does your future look like? What is your plans now that 20 years in the business? I don't know what an EMT life looks like. I mean, are you gonna be a teacher after? Do you plan on doing more studies with anything you're doing? What is Jim's future looks like?
Good question. The ultimate goal is to step back from being on the road full time. I am an educator already here in Michigan, and I'm able to teach classes, but at this point, I'm kind of just taking a little bit of a hiatus from that. I want to expand into more of my energy healing and make that more of something that allows me to have the flexibility of schedule, and also because of my two careers that I've had, both the museum field and emergency services as a paramedic. I see the need to marry the two and advise museums and cultural institutions on how to prepare for a disaster from the human perspective. Now, when I went through museum studies, we talked about what happens if there's a flood and your artifacts get damaged, what happens if there's a fire, but we spent very little time on what if there's a medical emergency, like, is everybody going to be prepared? Do you have everybody train in CPR? Where are you going to go for the exits? And have you invited the first responders in to tour your facility so they know where to go when a disaster happens, And so it's something I'm looking into. I've been invited to be a part of a conference in July over in the Quad Cities over by Iowa and Illinois there to give a little bit of a roundtable, just kind of an hour-long session to introduce the concept to museum professionals, but it's definitely something that's portable. So I'm looking at that as something that allows me to travel, and who knows where that'll go from there, possibly new routes. It's hard to say. I leave it up to the universe to tell me where I'm going to be, but recent circumstances, I've got a lot of good affirmation that I'm on the right path, that there is a goal in sight, and that those that are involved with me on that goal know that that's the ultimate plan, is to transition to be able to do that. So
That is spectacular. And like I said, you've always seemed like somebody when you set your mind to something, you kind of keep reaching for that goal. And that's where the inspiration comes, because people will see, wow, look what he did. I'm inspired to be that. If somebody came up to you today and wanted to be interested in being a first responder, what would be your advice to them getting into this field?
the biggest thing that I've learned is that you have to be compassionate and empathetic, even with all of the knowledge I have. And if you said you've talked to Richard Estep, who's also paramedic, we have a significant amount of knowledge that puts us in a similar general position of an ER physician, to controlling a person's airway, for delivering medications, running a cardiac monitor, starting IVs, that all of that. But in the end of the day, once I've done all of those skills and provided that knowledge, I could just as easily stop, sit behind the person, and wait for the transport to be done. But what I always do is I sit next to them and let them know that there's another human being in the space with them that wants them to feel better. So if you do want to do this job, you have to be an empathetic and compassionate person. And I can't teach that to people. So as an instructor, I look for that in my students, and I try to encourage those who are naturally empathetic and naturally compassionate to try to model that for their classmates. Because I can't teach that. It's
Right.
something that they either have it or they don't. And then the ones that don't have that, we actually evaluate them and say, you're really not coming together on that aspect. But definitely be compassionate, be empathetic, and not be judgmental, because there are times where it's easy to judge the people that call us, but we are there for them at what could be the worst day of their lives, and we need to be able to have that compassionate, empathetic, professional care.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary at times, and to have somebody who can be compassionate and kind of help that person to understand, like, okay, I know you're scared, but you need to calm down, because you being hysterical is not going to help you in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when you have somebody who is naturally just a compassionate person, and anybody who does anything should be compassionate about, or have passion
Right.
about what they're doing and
Mm-hmm.
believing in, and helping. And so it is a good model. And that is always a good thing for people to think about who want to become a first responder.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something I can handle, and do I have what it takes when somebody's stressing out, not to freak out with them? Because
Right.
you know it. You pick it up. You
Mm-hmm.
go into a chaotic situation. All of a sudden, your body's going into chaos, but you have
Right.
to be remain calm.
Right.
and go, okay, I got to calm this situation down. But there's a lot of people that cannot do that
Right.
because they don't know how to do that. Like you said, that's not something you can teach somebody to just say, okay, well, I need to calm down. Well, it's easier said than done sometimes,
Right.
especially when grandma's laying there and you want to help her so badly, but you can't do nothing.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's amazing. I appreciate what you do. I love what you do. I
Thank
love
you.
your journey. I am so glad that you are able to recognize your abilities and your boundaries and to be able to put that into your everyday life. If I can ask one small favor you, as you heard me talk about at the beginning of this, please do something for William Bowden
Absolutely.
and his family and bring this little boy a little bit of peace. And during his recovery, kids with
Hmm.
cancer, that hits hard for me.
100%.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, I, and I've asked the rest of the world and all my listeners and anybody who's going to watch this video now, later,
Hmm.
in a week or two, to just say a little prayer for little William
Yeah.
and show that he is a very strong individual going through this. I mean, he's probably sitting there playing with toys and not even really comprehending what he's going
Mm.
through. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's got to be scary to be put in a medical facility and be given medications and
Mhm.
how chemo makes your body feel.
Mhm.
Like I said, it's got to be very scary for somebody who's 17 months old. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. So, with that being said, Jim, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to be with
Thank
us,
you.
talk about your journey, and for being so raw and being open on what a lot of us don't get to understand or go through. So, my friend, I say stay well,
Thank you.
stay safe out there, and always know that you've always got people who have your back and watching out for you. You are very loved. So,
Thank you so
oh,
much.
and you're never late to the party, Deb. You are always a big part of our lives. So, it's good that we've
Love
got
you.
a great amount of people who love us and love you, love what you do. Like I said, keep on your journey. I look
Thank you.
forward to seeing what Jim's going to be doing in the future. So there you have it, folks. Reach out to Jim on TikTok or on his social media. And if you're looking for any type of Reiki session with him, reach out. And like I said, I love Reiki. It is a good healer. It helps balances out the body,
Mhm.
because we need that every once in a while.
Absolutely.
Um, so keep doing what you're doing. Look forward to future TikTok videos, and everybody, I'm going to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning
Thank you
in,
so much.
being a part of this amazing journey that Jim has been on, and to recognizing all of his great skills and what he does for our community. So I am going to say good night to everybody. Remember, we are going to be back next Tuesday. I have the amazing Jeff Belanger coming your way. We are going to talk about his journey through climbing Kilimanjaro and that
Mhm.
inspirational story. So tune in
Awesome.
next Tuesday, 8 p.m. We are going to talk with Jeff Belanger about his inspirational story. And with that, folks, I'm going to say good night, everybody. Have a great night. See y'all again. Be safe. And just remember, the world needs you and you matter.